The Boston Bruins have released their rookie camp roster, and we're going to be seeing a lot of names that we're going to have to familiarize ourselves with, including some guys like Riley Duran, Jackson Edwards, and John Farinacci. I'm going to be talking about all of these players, some that we're going to have to keep a close eye on this season that could potentially crack the roster. We're going to be talking about that, as I mentioned, as well as we have another Jeremy Swayman update, this time from another credible reporter in Darren Dreger, and what he had to say is going to have a lot of Bruins fans excited. So we're going to get on to all of this. You're not going to want to miss what we had to hear about Jeremy Swayman. But before we get into all of this news here, we know that 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. We're trying to catch up to Habs and Leafs Digest. We want to show those guys that we're the best team of the three. So we need to catch up to them and subscribers. So you're going to have to make sure to hit that sub button to let them know. But like I said, let's get, without any further ado, we got to get into this. You know, we cannot waste any more time. Going to touch on the rookies camp stuff first here and then head on to Jeremy Swayman. But this rookie camp roster looks exciting. I'll pull up the full roster, and like I said, I'm going to highlight a few of these guys that we're going to have to keep a close eye on, and a lot of players that are going to be a real big piece for the Bruins' future. But I'm going to first pull up the whole roster here on the bigger screen, so you can take a moment to pause, or if you want to just listen while I'm talking and take a look at these players. But as I mentioned, I'm going to be featuring pretty much John Farinacci and Jackson Edward in this video, but there are many, many other names, such as Riley Duran, Drew Bavaro, Ryan Bichelle. All of these guys have been in the news for the Boston Bruins as of, you know, the last few months and stuff, kind of going around what we're going to see from these guys. Riley Duran being, I think, the biggest of them, with a chance to make the Bruins roster at the beginning of the season. So him, I've spoken a lot about him, but we're going to want to keep an eye on him in specific. But I'm going to first start off with John Farinacci. What we're seeing about him, and being on the first line of the rookie camp, this is something that, you know, you're going to have to take into consideration, because this is not like the first line of an NHL roster. There's many players here that are not going to be seen, you know, very much. There's a few players, such as the ones I'm talking about right now, that will be a big highlighted piece in this team. So first of all, let's look at John Farinacci's stats. Last year in Providence, after coming from Harvard and being the captain of that team, where he was 20 points in 19 games, 4 Harvard point per game, going to Providence last year in 71 games, getting 38 points, which is absolutely not a bad start for a guy who's coming into the pro level in a later kind of age. 23 years old, was drafted 3rd round by the Arizona Coyotes, former team, I guess we could say now. But having John Farinacci coming into this team, having him coming into this development camp, with a lot to go, a lot to, you know, ride on, and knowing that he's at that age, he wants to compete, and he had something to say about that to the Bruins media, and this is what he had to say. That's the hope. This is based on making a push for the NHL this season. That's the dream of any kid, and especially coming into this camp. You want to be able to put your best foot forward starting this weekend, and John Farinacci, as a former captain, especially for Harvard, knows that this is the time where you really need to show your true colors, show your potential, and let everybody know, Bruins fans, the Bruins themselves, critics, that you're meant to be in the NHL. And John Farinacci, as I mentioned, the experience that he has, he's going to be the guy that I think is going to very much strive in this position. And do I see him making the NHL this year? I think there could be a few chances, perhaps, with injuries and everything like that. But right away, no, not yet. But he will be one of the guys at the top of that list for a call-up position. But let's head on to the defense now. We have another one here, Jackson Edward. I want to talk about him, and I've spoken about him in one of the first videos on the channel, actually, when we started to make all of those college, university signings. He was one of them, and I do think that Jackson Edward, not part of that signing, but Jackson Edward, coming from the OHL London Knights, I like what we're seeing from him as well. Another big defenseman, kind of the trend that the Bruins like to see, of the 7th round, 200th overall by the Bruins. He's a pretty good defenseman, you know, not just behind the puck, but also heading on the offensive side of things. 30 points in 59 games for the London Knights as a defenseman, 6'3", left-handed defenseman. That is what the Bruins are looking for, and having this opportunity to have some more guys internally come up. We've seen them in Parker Wotherspoon and Mason Lohrei. Those are the types of players that you like to see have the ability to make your way into the roster, especially on the defensive side, where they're not as common as you see in many different programs, many different opportunities. The defensemen don't get that type of kind of look around. I know it's probably a weird way of putting it, but what I'm trying to get at. And I think that Jackson Edward has serious potential for this team, especially with what we've seen in London in the OHL. I know it's a very different league, but I'm excited to see what he does in the AHL this year in Providence, having that translate to the NHL eventually. But a big part that the OHLers and the CHL, WHL have over those college guys is that they have a much longer season. Competition's always not as much as or not as competitive as what is in the NCAA, but having a lot more games gets you under that belt a lot more, gets you under the schedule a lot more, and really gets you used to having a very, very long season, which is, as I mentioned, a big upper hand that they have on the guys coming out of college. So all of these few players here that I've mentioned, all, of course, as well, Drew Bavaro, John Farinacci, Riley Duran, all of these guys, Jackson Nelson, another one I haven't even mentioned here, and more will be coming from these guys over the next few weeks. You're going to want to keep an eye on them. This is going to be a very fun rookie camp, and I think the Bruins are going to be scouting a lot, knowing what they have to do in the next coming seasons with payments for different players. They're going to want to see what they have internally, and I'm very excited to see what is going to come from all these young guys, because they're going to be very, very good, and there's going to be a few stars in here that are going to be pretty under the radar. But let's move on to our second topic here of the video, which is obviously Jeremy Swayman. Another one that I think we're going to have to discuss. Obviously, this is one that we've been having so many updates for. We've had so many updates of just kind of everything, from contracts that are not even close, from contracts that may be approaching, from 4 years, $6.2 million, to 8 years by $10 million. We have every possible scenario coming from this. And this is a big one here, so I'm going straight with the quote from Darren Dreger. And this is one that we have to be looking forward to. And this is what Darren Dreger had to say. I think they're going to get something done. Obviously, I don't want to talk about, nothing getting done, because it will. He said, I'm not saying it's imminent, but I do think the negotiations are probably closer than what we're reading about, which is an absolutely huge step. Even though he thinks it is a huge step forward for what we're seeing from this Boston Bruins team, roster, staff, everything. We haven't heard anything even being close about Jeremy Swayman. So having the possibility of being a lot closer than fans are thinking, having this under tight wraps, this is exactly what we want to see from a Jeremy Swayman standpoint. We don't want much stuff to get out. At that point, that's when you get the reaction of other players, other teams, probably driving up the price or lowering it down. But in this case, driving it up. If we're closer than what we are expecting and what fans are expecting, I'm going to be very pleased that if this is the case. And obviously, we have the previous reports here that I will pull up of every type of contract, which is during the recent episode of Spit and Chicklets, Ryan Whitney reported the Bruins have offered Swayman 4 years, $24.8 million, which is $6.2 per season for those 4 years. And Elliot Friedman also discussed that one. And then Frank Cervalli discussing that Swayman's earlier price was around $8.5 to $10 million. We're kind of getting reports from all over the place. And having Darren Dreger, one of the guys that you kind of rely on more than the other guy next to him, I like what we're seeing. He doesn't mention a price, but still having the recent reports of being, it's not going to be $10 million, it's not going to be $9 million. This could be a real big thing. If we're having something imminent, if something is lower than we thought, if it's 8 years, we could be getting that contract that we had all hoped for at the beginning. So we still have to keep a close eye on this. Darren Dreger brought this out yesterday, and one thing that, we have to keep into consideration is the summer is ending. The league is starting soon. Rookie camps are underway. Spring training, not the MLB season. Preseason is coming soon, and things are getting very, very tight before you have a contract done. So are we going to see it? We better. And I think that this is a very good step in the right direction. So let me know what you think about all of this Jeremy Swayman news here, as well as the prospects that we're looking at in the rookie camp that are going to be quite interesting to watch, I guess is a good way of putting it. But, like I said, that's all I got. If you did enjoy the video, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.